Oh shit.
We are now live on air with Chris Kendall, the Banana Commander, who's now hanging out in Saskatchewan, Canada. Is that right?
You know it, man. You know it. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Live Snapchat on the Vegan World Summit.
There we go. There we go. Peace, love, and seafood. Shout out to peace, love, and fruit. So today, Chris, what's the topic going to be?
Oh, well, today the topic is social situations on a raw food diet, which can be pretty diverse, and we're going to get into it. I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and everyone below can let me know what they think and what they really want to specify on.
Awesome, man. Yeah, this is so underrated. People totally overlook this. We're like definitely social creatures, humans are. And like whatever everyone else is around us is doing, we're going to want to do the same. And if we're not doing the same, there's going to be some pressure on there. So hopefully you can give us some tips and tricks on how to overcome that pressure or try to, ease the stress around eating in social situations around people who aren't eating the same food we are. So that's powerful.
Absolutely. I hope to, man. So I think it'll be a fun time connecting with everyone today, and blessed to be here and blessed to see everyone,
You've been doing raw foods now for over 10 years. Is that right?
It's actually over 12, almost 12 and a half right now.
Dang, bro. A little 12-year-old boy here.
Yeah, there we
Cool,
go.
man.
There we go. Still a big fruit smile, fruit stash all the time.
Yeah, man. So over 12 years, you learned a lot. I'm sure when you first got into this 12 years ago, things weren't as easy as they are for you now. And you've learned a lot over the 12 years.
Man.
So hopefully you can share those 12 years worth of wisdom with us here today. Looking forward to it, bro.
Thanks, brother. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll let you go. The floor is all yours.
All right. Peace, brother.
Enjoy.
See you soon. How's everyone doing out here? Super stoked to connect again this week, and I think this is a topic that can help anyone and everyone out. I have a lot of things that I'm going to go over. Social situations can go in a lot of different directions. They can be with family, with friends, can be at restaurants, just in public and everyday kind of situations. And I think each and every one of those has some similarities, but also has some differences and different techniques or perspectives you can use that will help you out to make it a lot easier. So, like Ted was alluding to, 12 and a half years doing this, times have changed a lot. I got to say, you guys are lucky. We're really lucky to be where we are right now. The vegan movement is booming and growing. The whole movement, the fresh food movement, the raw and vegan movement is booming. When I first got into this, it was like, I met 3 raw foodists, Doug Graham, a few other people. Doug really sticks out, but I met a couple people in the first little bit that I was a raw foodist, and then there's like 3 years I didn't meet another raw foodist at all, except for online. And even then, back 12 years ago, online, the movement was small. Nowadays, it's huge, and there's communities and groups of like-minded people. You throw up the word fruit luck, you put that out there, and you can meet a lot of people on your own, your own turf where you're at, or if you're traveling around, meet a lot of people and make friends, make those connections. And that does make it a lot easier. But the reality is there's still a lot of people out there who either A, have no idea what the heck we're doing, B, think it's insane or dangerous, or, they're really concerned for us, or C, just they don't give a crap. They really don't think that what we're doing is worthwhile. They have their own way and their own mindset, and they think that that's right for sure. So that leads us to feeling like we're swimming upstream a lot of times when we run into those different situations and those different people. So let's just jump right into it. I remember, for example, when I first got into raw food, I was evangelical. I just felt like everyone needed to be awakened. Everyone needed to be shook. Everyone needed to know what was on my mind, that things were changing my body and my spirit. And so I was yelling at people. I was like, telling people if they don't read this book, then I'm not going to talk to them, And I was just like, lay it out on people. And it was really enervating. It took a lot of energy, took a lot of time, and it also created a lot of friction, So because of that, I've really learned that it's really helpful to be discerning, really helpful to be discerning of people who want to understand, want to learn, who are inquisitive, who are curious and positive around the lifestyle, or around at least, learning a bit more, and those who just want to try and pick fights or start fires, or, if they aren't interested whatsoever, I'll maybe plant a seed, but then I'll let go, rather than feel like I got to dig and dig and dig. That makes life a heck of a lot easier. Jumping into actual situations, and you know, anyone who's here live right now, anyone who wants to say something, say hello, let me know how you're doing. You know, feel free to ask some questions or to, you know, share some of your own stories on the side. That's always fun. So, you know, let's jump into restaurants. Hey, Rose, good to see you again. Good to see you again. Yeah, Spencer, just chilling, you know, just doing my thing, right? So I remember restaurants. Let's start with restaurants. Hey, Gabriella. Restaurants, they can be tricky, you know. Hey, Louise. I remember when I first went raw, I was terrified to go to restaurants. I thought that it was like, hey guys, good to see you again. Hey, Brianna, yeah. I was terrified to go to restaurants, and I was embarrassed. I was incredibly embarrassed, you know, like the waitress would come up and I'd just be shaking in my boots, just so scared to be weird and to be awkward. And I was weird and I was awkward, and everyone around me is looking at me thinking like, what the heck are you doing? Hey, Ron. I hope I'm saying that right. And when the waitress would actually come up to me, I'd be like, I want the Cobb salad, but no corn, no dressing, no cheese, no ham, no this, no that. And it didn't work so well. You know, they'd always bring stuff with croutons or with remnants of cheese on it. And I just felt so awkward and weird. And so that brings me to my first tip with restaurants. Ask for what you want. You know, like I scan the menu nowadays. I look at all the things, and we're going to blow through stuff a lot because there's a lot to go through. So I scan the menu. I look at all the things across the entire menu that I enjoy, and hopefully not anyone else. Spencer, I'm sorry to hear that. I scan the whole thing, and I pick the stuff I want. And when the waitress comes up, I'd let her know, like, hey, like, I would love a giant salad, the biggest salad you've ever made with these ingredients, and just list it down. In other times, I've actually got off my table and went and talked to the waitress off to the side, or I've written it down on a piece of paper and just handed it to her, you know, if it's hard in the beginning, because most people, when they're first getting used to this lifestyle, it's something to get used to. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit crazy, right? But it takes flexing that muscle. It takes getting out there, doing this again and again and again to get a lot more comfortable with it, right? I always recognize that at restaurants, they're there to serve you. You know, they want it to be a pleasant experience. And so if you're comfortable, if you're confident, or at least you take a breath, you relax, and you try and be as comfortable and confident as you can, they're going to try and serve you. You know, it's been, hey, Samuel, there you go. You're in the north too, hey? They, you know, they're really there to serve you. They want it to be a positive experience for you. You know, in the last 12 and a half years of being a raw vegan, I've only been to three restaurants that told me I couldn't bring my own food in, which brings me to my second tip. A lot of times when I'm going to restaurants, I go prepared. I bring a whole bunch of oranges or a whole bunch of peaches or a whole bunch of nectarines or some grapes or even a smoothie or an avocado or tomatoes or a salad dressing, just making sure I'm prepared. So no matter what I get at the restaurant, I'm stoked, I'm good. You know, sometimes I'll just drink a big smoothie on the way so that when I'm at the restaurant, it doesn't even matter if I get anything. I've brought a whole bunch of bananas to a bar before and asked them to blend it up, and they blended it up for me. I've went to bars and restaurants with cantaloupes and asked if I could have a knife and a spoon and a bowl and cut it in half. And, you know, if you have confidence, if you relax, if you ask for some help, you say, hey, you know, I'm on a strange diet here and I'm having a hard time. My doctor told me I can just eat fruit. Can you bring this, you know? Or I see you don't really have fruit on the menu, and I really, you know, I eat a lot of fruit. Do you mind if I just eat this and then order a salad? You know, if you ask for help, if you're a little bit vulnerable, it goes a long way. And at the end of the day, if you're at a restaurant and they don't have exactly what you want, or they don't let you eat your fruit in there, it's just one meal. The biggest tip, number 3, the biggest tip is focus on what you're there for. You know, generally if I'm out at a restaurant, or even if I'm at a family event, which we're going to get into that, you know, you're there for the connection. You're there for the time with the people, right? I don't go to restaurants, just standard restaurants with a whole bunch of raw vegans usually and just order salads. It's usually going to restaurants with friends or family or other people who aren't really on the same diet. And, you know, I'm just there to be connecting with them and have a good time. So the food is secondary. I want to be there with them and to connect and talk with them, you know. And that could bring you to another thing. They might be eating something you totally don't agree with, right? And you could be looking at that and disgusted or angry or hurt, you know. And if instead you focus on the similarities, you focus on the things that you really do have in common, that you really do want to connect on, and it might even be being vulnerable and sharing, like, I'm having a hard time with what you're eating, and you know, it's because of this and this. Have you ever watched this documentary? Then letting it go. If you push and push and push, it's usually going to create awkwardness and then create kind of a butting of heads. But if you just bring something up and then let it go, oftentimes you'll just really plant a seed. So, you know, restaurants, I have fun there now. You know, I really have fun at restaurants. I take it as play. I take it as an opportunity to really, you know, connect with other people and show them that this lifestyle can be really fun and that it doesn't have to be awkward or strange. So I'm proud to be eating the way I am. You know, before I was embarrassed. Now I'm really proud, and not in the way that I'm like boasting about it or anything, but that I'm comfortable in myself because I'm proud of the actions and the ramifications of my actions. So I want to be resonating, or I want to be radiating with happiness. I want to be radiating with contentment, with enjoyment, with comfort, you know. And I recognize when people are looking at me, if they don't see that I'm comfortable, that I'm feeling good, that I'm satisfied, it doesn't make the vegan and the raw vegan movement look that spectacular. Who wants to look at the awkward dude? You know, I remember, you know, when I was first doing it and I was really awkward and shy, I mean, people looking at me, they wouldn't think like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be the awkward shy guy over there, right? No, they think like, damn, I'm happy to be eating my steak because I don't want to be that weirdo, right? Instead, when I have my giant salad and I bring my own dressing and I'm laughing and I'm having fun, I'm comfortable, the waitress is like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know, saying stuff. And, you know, people around me, I've had people around me at restaurants be like, what's he having? You know, like, I want that. And I'm not even kidding. Like, they're looking and thinking and, you know, taking pictures, and it's fun. I really enjoy it. You know, I've had times like in Hawaii with my family to steakhouse. Oftentimes steakhouses have great salads. Kind of strange, but they do have great salads, and that's where a lot of my family members and people I went out with have gone. So I went to a steakhouse and I brought my own stews. This isn't even fruit. This is like a stew, right? I brought a stew in a garbage bag, and I thought it was hilarious. I didn't care, you know, but I, instead of taking the route of, you know, being really comfortable with it, I took the route of pretending to be awkward about it. So I nudged my niece. I'm like, hey, check this out. And so when the waiter comes up, I like get tense and get weird, and I look up at him. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed right now, but my doctor has me on this really weird diet, and I basically can only eat what I make. Can I please just have a bowl and a spoon? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, you know. And he was just like, oh my, like, no worries, don't worry about it, and got it. And so I'm dumping my stew out of my plastic bag, and, you know, ate 5 bowls of my own stew from my plastic bag. You know, that's just one situation. Others, you know, I've been at restaurants and play with it by asking the waitress, like, hey, you know, I'm a weirditarian. Like, I can only eat fruit and vegetables. Can you just bring me bok choy and, you know, some Napa cabbage and some celery and carrots and tomatoes, and that's it? And that was at an Asian kind of restaurant where they make the food right in front of you and they're frying it up right in front of you. So I had fun there. You know, the next time she came around, I said, hey, I'm a weirditarian. I hope that's not a big deal. Can you just, you know, and, you know, it was lots of fun. I just find the more at ease you are, the more you realize that it's just, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's not every single meal is just one moment in time. The easier it gets. And if you don't ask, you're not going to receive. You know, that's the big thing, you know. So at restaurants, be prepared, bring your own food, recognize they're there to serve you, and, you know, recognize what you're there for, right? That you're there for the connection. So I really hope that helps a lot. Family and friends, you know, this gets a little bit deeper. You know, I find that family and friends, because you're a lot more close and you're not just in a service kind of area, it opens up a lot more opportunities for connection. It opens up a lot more opportunities for introspection and for, you know, really being vulnerable. And to me, that's what it's all about. You know, I mean, with my family and my friends, I've shared almost anything and everything. And it started as being really, you know, like grabbing and, you know, judgmental. And it kind of went more away from focusing on them and what they're not doing, instead focusing on me and what I'm feeling and what I'm needing. And, you know, what I'd love to share, you know. And I think anytime we come back to ourselves, it's going to create less butting of heads. If instead you're with your family, you're with your friends, or you're at a restaurant, whatever it is, and you're focusing on them and saying like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, or do you realize what you're doing is this, or you're a murderer, you know, of course, any of those things is going to create a big butting of heads. It's going to create friction. It's going to feel like judgment to them. And, you know, oftentimes when there's judgment, then there's just like a wall, you know, or there's judgment right back and they'll just say some stuff, right? So regardless if we're talking about you coming to the situation and bringing up your vulnerability, or if somebody else is like joking and messing with you and like, oh, you stupid rabbit, or oh, you know, like holding up some stakes and laughing at you and stuff, the more real and vulnerable you can be, the more they're going to feel you, the more they're going to recognize it, the more a front you put up and like, you know, get all pissed off and tell them something, the more it's just going to create more drama, more resistance, more headbutting. So, you know, something along the lines of, you know, when you're in those family situations, you know, maybe sometimes, yeah, people don't care what we eat when we're at restaurants. Yeah, that's true. You know, it's very true. You know, oftentimes you think you care more about it than what other people do, you know, like, or you think other people care more than you, right? But it's all about what you want, you know. It's like what you want to create. They're there to serve you. You're not there to serve them, right? So it makes that a lot easier. So a lot of times in these family and social situations, people are afraid to say no to the things they're offered. You know, people make something with love and they want to offer to, maybe it's your grandma, and they're like, they just don't understand. And again, the more real, there we go. Christmas is a good one. We'll get into that right now. Actually, we're at Christmas or we're at any special event, Thanksgiving, and people are making turkey or they're making the special ham or whatever it is. And you're with family and relatives or close friends, or maybe someone you just met and you feel like, oh my gosh, like I got to accept this, you know? Well, one, when they're bringing it to you and they're sharing, be real, be vulnerable. You know, I'm really in gratitude for your desire to share something you feel is so special, the time and energy and love you put in there. I really appreciate, and I have gratitude towards that. You know, but I have to say, for me right now, I don't feel like I can accept it, and I really hope you understand, because if I do, I'll be going against what I really believe and what I feel I need right now to feel comfortable and to be at ease for the next day, week, month, and even longer, you know. And if they are your friend, if they're your family, they're gonna understand. If you really say like, look, I could use a little bit of help right now. This is actually challenging, but I brought my own dish, and I hope you understand. If you'd like some of mine, I would love to share some with you. And then that goes back to being prepared when you go to these family outings or celebrations. Bring a lot of your own stuff so you can share. Drink something on the way, have a smoothie on the way, so you're not ravenous and looking at everything else. Spend the extra money and make sure that you get something that you really, really love. You know, maybe prepare something special. I know I'm used to eating really simple. Like I can just eat a meal of mangoes and tomatoes and an avo and feel amazing. But if I'm going to a big family affair, I would rather generally make something kind of fancy that I really love, so that one, they're not looking at me twice as much like I'm crazy just eating my tomatoes and mangoes whole, but two, because it's something that I can share. And that brings about connection, because if you're just eating your own thing completely, they're eating their own thing completely. There's nothing wrong with that. But having that extra to share can sometimes bring people a little closer together. And also they might think, oh, that's pretty good. You know, could you make extra next time? Or could I have that recipe? Or maybe let's talk about this more. I didn't think that, you know, vegan food could taste this good, right? So it brings up some things to talk about. And from there, you have an opening. Then you can be like, you know, it's been a challenge sometimes, but, you know, it's getting easier and easier and easier. And I found this recipe book really helpful, you know, at therawadvantage.com from Chris. Shameless. Or otherwise, I found this book, like the 80-10-10 diet, really interesting and informational. Or I found the China study really interesting. And, you know, I never thought I'd be here ever. But after reading this, I just can't help but live this way. And living this way, I feel so darn good that I want to share it with everyone. And, you know, I know that it's a little bit different, and I really appreciate if you can, you know, help me out in this way to just understand that I got to do this for me. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you're either doing things for yourself or you're doing things for others. I'm a big believer that we need to do things for ourselves first, so that then we can do things for others. Because if you do things for others first, and then you go against your beliefs, your light's not going to shine half as bright. You're not going to be able to help. You're not going to be as energetic. You're not going to feel as congruent with your thoughts and your actions. So it's going to lead you to feeling imbalanced, right? So it doesn't matter to me personally if I was, you know, in front of the Pope, the Dalai Lama, or if Jesus came down, descended himself, and said, "Here, eat this meat." I'd say, you know what? For me, I have to say no, and I hope you understand and respect me for that, because I would rather disrespect another person in honesty rather than disrespect myself. And I don't think it's disrespectful to say to someone, you know what, I really appreciate your gesture, and you know, I would love to give you a hug. I really appreciate it, and I love this connection. But for me right now, I need to choose something else. You know, I think that's a really powerful statement, and it shows others that they can do the same thing. So be prepared, be vulnerable, be real. You know, make sure that you're honoring yourself. And in my own opinion, that's the best way to grow with that at kind of those family times and those times that we're really challenged. Public, you know, again, when you're in public, I like to be at grocery stores, and oftentimes people are like, oh, what are you, a monkey? You know, I like to play with it. I like to have fun. I like to scratch my armpits and go, you know, depending upon my attitude, on my mood, on the day. Sometimes instead, I might just say, yeah, I like fruit, and just leave it at that if I'm feeling a little bit less extroverted and I'm just like, you know, just relax about it. Or, you know, sometimes you don't even have to say anything. And that can be the same with family, with friends, or in these public situations. You don't have to be the expert. You don't have to defend the entire world, all the animals, every single time. You might find yourselves at some moments like you want to be more outspoken and you want to share from the heart with vulnerability. And other times you might feel like, you know what, I don't feel like talking about it. Or, yeah, you know, I like fruit. You know, you don't have to say, I'm a raw foodist for the rest of my life, and this is why, and you got to read this, and do you know about this, and don't you know what you're doing is this, this, and this. That can be really tiring. You know, learning when to choose your battles, right? Learning when to choose the time you're really spreading seeds and you're spreading it on fertile soil instead of just throwing in the rocks all the time. Your energy level, your happiness is going to speak ahead of your words if you take good care of yourself and you choose your timing, right? Because if you're just throwing them all over this place, you're just, you know, maybe like no fap, like Teddy Carr is saying, right? If you're just throwing it all over the place, you're not going to be shining quite as bright. Hope you love that, Ted. You want to shine as bright as you can. So, you know, choose those words, choose those times, choose the way you present yourself, choose the energy you feel, the energy you emanate with wisely. If you're really tense all the time, if you're really judgmental all the time, that's going to be constricting. It's going to bring you down. It's going to make you feel less connected to other people, right? So the more open, the more loving, the more vulnerable, you know, opening up our heart and sharing what's alive in us in the moment, the more we're going to connect with others, the easier it's going to be, the more they're going to feel us, respect us, and maybe be a lot more open to actually learning what we have to say, right? So play and fun and relaxation. You know, I think that this is a journey. This is a dance. This is a fun time. You know, this is there's no need to be like, you know, right on the first go doing it perfectly, because perfection is the process. You know, it's going through all of these things, learning the different ways through the experience. Maybe sometime you grab someone and you shake and you yell at them, and then you experience, you know what, that didn't really work out so well. You know, there is no right or wrong way for each person, each situation. Different things may resonate. I'm just calling for more conscious action and more understanding of what we're putting out there, because I want to see this movement grow. I want to see everyone as comfortable and at ease as humanly possible, enjoying themselves, really proud on a non-egotistical way, but really proud for what they're doing. We're leading the charge. We're leading the charge for a more compassionate, more loving, more connected, more healthy, more, you know, better future for everyone on the planet, the animals, the earth itself, and our future generation as humans, right? So there's a lot of reasons to feel great about yourself, to feel great about the choices you're making. And the more we can root ourselves in those and feel really great about it and share from that space and, you know, authenticity and vulnerability, the more we're really going to connect with people, the easier it's going to be, the better we're going to feel, and the further we're going to reach. So, it's a conscious creation. That's it. It's a conscious creation. You are what you emanate. If you're really tense, you're going to be feeling, and you are going to be resonating and reflecting out that tense energy. So instead, if we choose to take a breath, it's a truth that if we choose to breathe in the way we do when we're calm, relaxed, in bliss, pride, whatever it is, if we choose to breathe that breath that we naturally breathe when we're in a high vibing state, we will naturally go to that state. So if you're having the hardest time and you're tensing, all of a sudden you notice you're shallow breathing, take a second, breathe, relax, come into that blissful state, and then come from there. It gets a lot easier with time. I hope this really helps you guys. Let's see, how can a person, I'm going to get into some of these questions here on the side. I hope that helped you, Louise, with Christmas. Be prepared, bring things, be vulnerable. You don't need to be an expert. That's another thing. Like you can say, my doctor said, or when I read this book, would you like to check this book out? I'd love to talk to you about it. I read it and it just changed my perspective on anything. And before I totally thought like you, I never would have thought myself to be in this position. But after reading this and after trying it for a little bit, my whole life has changed, and it's amazing. I'd love to hear what you think, and that way you're not the expert. They're not going to be like, pinning it down on you and saying, oh, but this protein, blah, blah, blah. You can even say, I don't even know. I just read, I decided to trust, and I've been doing this for a while. It's an experiment. It's kind of fun. And, try the experiment out. Let me see what you think, that way you're not like, trying to stand up on the pedestal and be the exact moment or the person to be defending everything. You're just saying, I'm playing with this. I'm experimenting, and that can invite other people in a lot less of a confrontational way, because you're not just saying, this is exactly what it is and you're wrong and I'm right. And, that's of course going to bring upon this, right? So that's a fun way. How can a person talk about the China study and all the nutritional science supports veganism without feeling like you're pushing? My friend's grandma's dying of cancer right now, and I just want to help. I want to push. Okay, so Rose, that for me again, that comes back to being really vulnerable. To being really open and saying, like, look, Grandma, I love you so much, and I care for you so much, and I just want the best for you, and I've learned this stuff that I've seen people heal from situations like you are in, and it kills me to think that maybe there's a chance. And what I've read and what I've learned really brings up a lot of belief in me. It brings up a lot of hope in me, and I just want to spread that hope to you, because I know that hope is a huge aspect of recovery. And I would love to see, would you be open to reading this book? Like, I want to see you for another birthday, for another 10 birthdays, and maybe, just maybe, this could be the answer. Would you be willing to read this book? And you could even go the other route. Like, I know this might be against what you're doing right now, or maybe this isn't on your comfort level, but just understand this is coming from love. This is really hard for me to see you in this situation and to feel like maybe there's a chance this could work. Would you be willing to check this out? If not for me, for yourself, please. Like, I think the more vulnerable, the more real, the more we're talking about what we're experiencing, what we're needing, what we're feeling, the more likely people are to open up to us, because that gives them an opportunity, right? And it's not just you squeezing them or shaking them, or all of a sudden they might get tense. Instead, you're talking about how you feel and what your needs are. Like, I have a need for you to be around for a longer time. I love you, and I love the connection we have. And I really, really think that this could help. Like, what I've learned is astounding. Did you know this? This book shows how you can reverse cancer. This book shows how cancer genes are turned on and turned off with just the addition of milk, or with X, Y, and Z that is found in the China study. And it's the biggest study around, like, check this out. I really hope that helps. I really hope that helps you, Rose. Brianna, going off Rose questions. Friend's only 22 and has cancer. It's heartbreaking. I absolutely hear you. I've now had 2 family members and 4 friends that I've known, some of them quite close, between the ages of 23 and like 60s, pass away in the last decade and a bit of living this lifestyle, pass away from cancer. And it never gets easier, you know, but what does get easier is being open, honest, and authentic. It's a muscle to flex. And, you know, people are on their own path. That's a huge thing. Recognizing that people are on their own path, and at some point you got to let go. You know, if you tie your emotions, your well-being into the actions of others, you're going to be brought down to the bottom of the ocean, you know, and it sucks to say that's the hardest thing in the 12 years of being on a raw food diet that I've had to get to comfort with, is really realizing that everyone's on their own path. The best thing I can do is radiate and shine with my light, with my brightness, and be open, honest, authentic, and vulnerable with those I love, to share from my heart what I'm feeling, what I'm needing, what I'm seeing, and what I feel and relate from that, and hope that seeds are planted and watered, you know. And, you know, if I'm shaking people, if I'm yelling at them, it creates discord. And I mean, it's possible that those are the final moments, the final days, weeks, or months with those people you love. And if they've already made up their mind, if they've decided this is how I'm gonna go, because, you know, I really do think that some people, they are slowly killing themselves. And when they get a prognosis like this, in some ways they're relieved, because they're leaving off the physical plane, which is, for a lot of people, pain and strife and struggle, you know. So there are some people, I think, that they literally, they're ready. I've met people, actually. I consulted a lady who their kids were like, you gotta talk to my mom, you gotta make her do this, you know. And I talked to her, and she's like, I can apply some of this stuff, but I'm ready to go. It's my time, you know. And the rest of the consultation and the rest of the time connecting with the family was more about acceptance and love, and really honoring other people's choices, and being there unconditionally loving and supporting her, so that those final moments were about love and connection, you know. And that's incredibly trying. So, you know, again, I think it comes back to just being as open, honest, and vulnerable as humanly possible, sharing from your heart what you feel, what you need, the sadness you're feeling, you know, how you really want them to, you'd wish for them to see the same thing. You'd wish for them to want to stick around, or to take it upon themselves to try something that may help, and then provide the information and say, look, I'm not going to draw on about this over and over and over, but I just really think this could help. And if you could use any support, if you could use any, you know, information, or, you know, if you want me to bring some food or X, Y, and Z, put it all out there, you know, put it all out there, and then let it go, you know. And, you know, maybe you bring it up very casually or very relaxed, or with, again, vulnerability in the future. But I think pushing and poking and prodding generally doesn't work, you know, and it generally just creates animosity between the two, and, you know, that doesn't help anyone, right? So I really hope that helps your friend's grandma, right? So maybe talking to your friend about the things we're talking about here, you know, you could just talk to a friend and offer that advice, or you could, you know, talk to her grandma and just say, hey, look, you know, like, I see how much my friend cares for you. I mean, I think about my grandma and how much I care for her, and, you know, I would love to see you live a lot longer. You know, this information I have, it's a little different from what a lot of people understand, but I've seen it work. I've felt it work. I've talked to people who've recovered. Would you be open to checking it out? You know, and again, it's back to you, right? So I really hope that helps. What's the best way to advise people with diseases to start this lifestyle? You know, I mean, I like the thought that if you learned your lifestyle was similar to taking a board and hitting yourself in the head, do you want to just slow down and only hit yourself in the head once in a while, or you just want to stop hitting yourself in the head, right? Like, I understand when people are just getting into this lifestyle for whatever reasons, you know, whether it's academics or sports or something, they might want to transition. And depending upon what type of person you are, if you're like a dive right into the water person, or if you're a kind of wade into the water person, that might determine the speed at which you go into the lifestyle, you know? But when someone has a chronic disease or has like a major ailment, I would pretty much recommend just dive right in. Maybe at the most a couple days or a week of transitioning from whatever they're doing to a high carbohydrate, high raw vegan lifestyle, maybe fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, and then sweet potatoes and broccoli and all that stuff for dinner. But unless they have like cancer of the kidneys or cancer of the liver, you know, elimination organs, which then you could overwhelm your elimination organs if you already have cancer there, or if you're, you know, really sluggish in those areas. I would say dive right in. You know, that's what I would do if I was in that situation. If I had family or friends, that's what I would recommend that I would do. That you know, there is no speed to go too fast into it. One other contraindication is heavy drug use, heavy prescription drug use. You know, you definitely want to be monitored with that and possibly take a slower approach, because you're going to be detoxifying from that pretty quickly. You know, start green juice smoothie for breakfast. A lot of people think it's okay, but eat everything in moderation. Yeah, moderation. I mean, it's always fun to go back to that. You know, moderation. Like, is child abuse in moderation fine? You know, is genocide in moderation fine? You know, like, moderation is just a cop-out. You know, it's like the things that are really good for you are good for you. The things that aren't, accept it and choose it if you want. But it doesn't mean that it's good for you to have some bad, you know, like, it's good to be at ease. It's good to be comfortable with your choices, but that doesn't mean it's healthful to be eating crappy food, right? And the more real we can be with ourselves, the healthier we're going to be, you know? So I don't believe in everything in moderation, and I understand what you're saying that you don't, but that other people do. And I think the more real we can be about that, green juice is great. Smoothies are great, you know, being encouraging. And while I do 100% believe that, you know, just jumping in is the quickest, most effective route for somebody who's in a chronic condition, that doesn't mean that you say all or none, baby. You know, if you don't do it, you're just wasting your time. Yeah, of course, encourage change. But at the same time, I always would point to the moon. You know, I'd always be saying, you know, if I was in your situation, I'd go 100%. That's what I've seen the best results with. You have the greatest need right now, which is going to make it way easier. And with that, it'll make it a lot easier to stick with, you know? So, you know, people can always jump in and then reevaluate from there. All of a sudden, maybe they do a week or a month all in and then say, well, I'm going to add some steamed veggies to my dinner salad or X, Y, and Z, right? So trial period, you know, it's really tough because, you know, depending upon the situation and the particulars, I mean, if somebody's 13 and has a chronic ailment, is very different from somebody who's 60 and it's been progressing and they've like 5 chronic ailments and the first one to show up is the cancer, right? So it really depends. But, you know, I think that on a small term, you know, a month is a good starting point, because a lot of times if people do a week, then they're not really through a lot and they're going to usually still feel kind of a little bit wishy-washy and maybe be excited to get off of it. Whereas a month, usually people feel so damn good and they've changed their digestive system so much that if they do go off, they really notice how crappy they feel from it, and they want to get back or at least find a middle ground, which is awesome. And that first month of cleansing and, you know, bringing a lot more vitality into the healing process is really invaluable. So, you know, I think that's really, really helpful. Let's see, I just want to make sure, moderation, trial period. A lot of people also say, you know, give it a year. I know that's a lot longer, but if someone has a chronic ailment, you know, say a month, and the next step would be a year. You know, in a year's time, you can really get to know yourself a lot and get to understand all the different aspects of, you know, social, emotional kind of ramifications of a raw food diet. And, you know, I'd really recommend anyone in those situations, you know, and this is something that could tag on with what we were just talking about. If anyone knows someone in this situation, share from your heart, share with vulnerability, and then let them know that there is support out there, whether that's your support or, you know, someone like myself who offers consultation, or books or YouTube channels or groups, you know, any way that they can feel supported and know that, you know, it's not all on them is going to help them a heck of a lot. You know, and, you know, I've done that a lot of times. I know a lot of other people who are coaching and who coach people with chronic ailments and conditions, and that can make the big difference, because the more comfortable and confident somebody is in the lifestyle, the better results you're going to get. Because if they're stressed out and they don't believe it and they're like worried about protein or worried about getting too much sugar feeding their cancer cells, and maybe you don't know the answer, or, you know, they don't trust it, but you refer them to somebody who has some credentials. You know, a lot of times people don't believe the words of their closest friends, even if they are the most knowledgeable. So sometimes deferring to another person who has some credentials or who has some clout because of the time they've been doing the diet, or because of the people they've helped, or because of their website, or whatever it may be, right? That can really, really help. So deferring to others, sharing what you know with authenticity, but then also letting people know when you're not the expert, when you just, you know, this is what I feel, but check this out. I read this, and, you know, I've seen this person, or X, Y, and Z, and that can bring more credibility to you and to the lifestyle, rather than trying to be the #1 expert, right? Let's see. Best way to respond. Someone wants to talk about how good meat tastes and they'd never give it up and they don't make the connection. You know, there's a couple ways of doing that, Spencer. You know, one would be just to let it go. Like, yeah, you know, like, okay, you know, I understand, you know, and then just let it go. Or the other would be like, you know, I found it really easy to give up feeling crappy. You know, I could never give up feeling amazing, and, you know, knowing that I'll probably live a lot longer and healthier than I would have if I would have chose to eat meat, you know. And again, this comes back to, are you throwing your seeds on fertile soil or not? Because a lot of times when people are just talking about how good meat tastes, you know, then they don't want to hear. Their ears are closed. They're just trying to piss you off, right? So are you going to waste time and energy on that? That's absolutely your choice. The other way is to understand that people that are in that situation, people that are, you know, so like outward trying to like shock you or to get you pissed off, you know, they're not getting it. They're hurting inside, you know. If you can have compassion for them, because they're just, you know, that's obviously some drama they're playing out, and, you know, it's not really about you, it's about them, right? So if you understand that it's more about them than about you, it's easier to not take it personally, and instead to recognize that, you know, this is a hurting individual that just doesn't know better, you know, and, you know, doesn't know better or doesn't care enough about themselves or the animals, and that stems from a lack of love, self-respect, and respect for others, which, instead of being angry at those people, I'd rather love the heck out of them, show them that they're worth love, show them that they are love, and that the animals are worth loving and respecting as well. Because if you just give them anger, well, it's just going to reaffirm, you know, it's going to make them more firmly rooted in their place of anger towards the world and everything else, and lack of love and lust for life, you know. That brings us back to how blessed we are that we've discovered that we can live with love for ourselves, love for the planet, love for the animals, and live for love for life, right? And I just think that's the most amazing thing. And the more we become rooted in that, recognize that it's not about us, it's about other people. Like when people are coming at you, it's about them, it's not about you. You know, they're putting up walls and resisting what you're exhibiting because they don't want to change, right? But if you can be calm and confident and, you know, share with them your love and your support and your kindness, and even if they're slinging insults at you, say like, yeah, like 5 years ago, I would have said the same thing, but knowing what I know now, you know, it hurts my heart to hear those words. But, you know, if there's anything I can share, I'd be so happy to. You wouldn't believe what a difference this has made in my life. And that's why I do it. And that's why I can sit here calmly while you sling these insults at me, right? Because it's huge. You know, I think it is huge. And the more calmly and with love and compassion we can plant those seeds and allow people to see that we're not shaken off of our comfort and compassion and calmness, the more it's going to actually affect them. You know, in those situations when people are freaking out, that if you're calm and collected and rooted, that you're so confident in what you're doing, you feel so good about it, it doesn't matter what they say. That's about them. That's about them, right? So if you can just be like, I understand where you're coming from. I was there. I used to shake meat in front of people and tell them I was a T-Rex and they're stupid for eating vegetarian food. I did like 15, 18 years ago, you know, and now here I sit sharing like this and trying to spread this as far as I possibly can with calmness as much as I can, because I know that reaches people. You know, if you're not affected, it's just like that brother and sister situation where they're trying to poke at them and get them to piss off. The more reaction they get out of you, the more they're fueled. You know, the more they want to do it, the happier they are. If they're not getting a big rise and a big reaction out of you, instead, if you're like just sharing with vulnerability and honesty, it's going to shake them into vulnerability and honesty as well, right? So coming back to vulnerability, honesty, relaxation, confidence, being proud of what your stance, of what you're doing, being confident in it. And if you're not proud or confident, learn more. read more books, connect with someone like myself, do consultations, find ways to raise your highest level by knowing what's up, knowing the ish, right? So I hope that really helps. I feel really guilty when we meet strangers who are sick or I'm around someone who doesn't feel the healing possibilities of veganism. I feel guilty for not saying something. I really do try to spread the message. You know, wear a shirt, peace, love, and seasonal fruit all day. All I wear is this stuff because I'm wearing a billboard, you know, and I prefer, I know I'm not saying, you know, like I could wear a shirt that says vegan or like, you know, vegan for the animals. And I think all that stuff is really great. I personally, though, I like the softer message that makes everyone smile than rather than people feel like up in arms or like defensive about it. Sometimes to me, that's more for the choir rather than for everyone else. And that's why I prefer kind of stuff like this that don't have a cow go bananas and, you know, peace, love, and seasonal fruit and raw to the core, whatever it may be. I spread those because I really do believe that it's a great way to spread a smile, to plant a seed, and it brings up questions and curiosity. And, you know, I just generally take that lighthearted approach. So, you know, and otherwise, you know, strangers, you know, little teeny crumbs, you know, you don't have to necessarily have the banner and being like, vegan, right? But instead, like, I love fruit, and did you know this? Or like, oh, I read this book, or just little teeny crumbs, you know, like when I'm at the checkout counter, I talk about like, oh, what are you doing with all these bananas? Like, you know, I eat 18 bananas for lunch all the time. You know, I feel great, you know, and like just little things that piques curiosity, because then the next time they see you, they're going to ask more and more and more, and it's only going to grow, right? So, you know, understanding too that the world doesn't rest on your shoulders. I think that's really huge and important. You know, it's good to march to the beat of your drum, to share when you feel compelled, when you feel that intuition rising in you and you want to share. Come back to your space, come back to your vulnerability and share from there. But it's not upon us, each and every one of us, to be the #1 vegan that ever has been. And you know what? Maybe some people would totally naysay what I'm saying right here, but for me, it has created a lot more ease and a lot more ease in my life to recognize that I can share in my own way to the extent I want to share at any time. And that's awesome. You know, my choices and actions are reverberating out and they're creating massive change. Even if I don't do anything, you know, it's like the brighter you can shine, the more change you're going to create in certain ways, right? So if you're really stressed about it, if you feel guilty about it, that's going to weigh you down. I'd say release the guilt, see that as a signpost, and recognize that that guilt is serving you to learn different ways to spread the message in a more effective way, to spread the message in a way you feel comfortable about. Because if you feel guilty, but you still aren't doing it, obviously you aren't really comfortable in the way that you perceive yourself doing it. So if instead you come back to the other methods, and whether that's wearing a shirt that says something, being open and vulnerable with people, just dropping breadcrumbs, or rather maybe, you know, what would be a good one? Maybe like tomato crumbs. I don't know, what would be a good crumb, you know, good crumb. I don't know, something, some kind of fruit crumb, you know, have a little bit of a trail. That way you can actually help bring people to it without being really confrontational, you know. My pleasure, my pleasure. I hope that helps you, Rose. I don't believe guilt is worthwhile at all. Honestly, I believe, rather, I don't believe holding on to guilt is worthwhile whatsoever. I feel that guilt is just a signpost to let you know that what you're doing isn't as effective as you feel the need for. So grow in ways to do it and play, have fun. You know, we're going to talk more about that in my 4th talk about play, but have fun, find different ways. The more ways you go about it, the easier it's going to be. What is the one thing you think we should all know about raw veganism? You know, I think it's cool to note that raw veganism is one of the lightest ways of living. You know, it frees up so much energy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that it leads you to feeling just like sometimes the highest buzzing in the entire world and sometimes the lowest, because it's asking everything dense within you to come up. We're going to get a lot more into this in emotional eating in my next talk, so I hope you guys are there for that. But I just think, you know, it's important to note that, you know, being a raw foodist doesn't make you more spiritual. It doesn't make you, you know, more anything other than more clearly yourself, you know, more it brings more opportunity to really feel what you feel and to vibrate with the true essence of yourself, which is the highest vibes possible, love and light, you know? So recognizing that it just opens up that potential for you to aspire to your highest heights rather than making anyone better than anyone else or anything like that. Because I know that there can be, you know, at times feelings of like everyone has to do this and blah, 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 but it's just an opportunity for yourself to shine as bright as you can to shed light on others. I hope that kind of makes sense. Really feel the need to make everyone vegan. Yeah, I hear you, Susie. I mean, it's a noble thing, and it's something that we're all doing, but it's not upon any one of us, right? Shine bright, you know, enjoy the things you enjoy, grow in confidence, grow in the reasons why you're doing it, so it's easier to stay in those dark times. You know, defer to people who you know have a lot more information, and be prepared. You know, be prepared to laugh at yourself and laugh at this crazy world we're in, right? The more serious we take it, the harder it is. Breadfruit crumbs. There we go. Thank you, Bronwyn. Absolute pleasure, Rose. Trail of banana peels. So I have a couple questions here in the. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to jump into some of these questions here, and if anyone has any other questions, feel free to either say it in the feed there, or otherwise to put it in the ask question or topic. So, do you like eating sprouts? And if so, do you buy them? You know, before I got into raw food, I used to have sprout gardens all over the place. I'd use wicker baskets that don't have any lacquer or any kind of chemicals on them, and put alfalfa or broccoli or mustard or a whole bunch of different kinds of sprouts. And I put them in there, and then I'd actually, out of a coat hanger, create a little greenhouse around them. And I put a good shower filter on my shower, and I'd put these in every single window frame around my house, and then I just lightly spray them with the shower filter, you know, at least twice a day for most of them, some of them less, some of them more, and put them in there. And I used to eat sprouts all the time. I occasionally buy sprouts, not that often, but occasionally. I do have 4 bags of sprouting seeds here, and I have 4 different types of sprouting trays here. That said, I don't eat sprouts too often, but when I do, I really enjoy them. I find any greens are really healthy and nutritious. I get them in any way I can, whether that's, you know, greens, green smoothies, green juices, green juice powders, sprouts. I think all of it is great. It's realistically the one you're going to do the most and you enjoy the most that's going to bring you the most benefit, because you're going to keep it up, you know? So I enjoy sprouts. I buy them and I sprout them myself. They're not a huge part of my diet, but I do really enjoy them when I do. And I think they can make an awesome part of the raw food diet, or a living food diet. Thanks, Anna. Hey, Chris, what do you do in the face of social, what sprouts are good to get? You know, that's a great question. I'll just quickly go on that. I like alfalfa. I like a brachia mix. I like, that's broccoli sprouts, for example. You know, I like clover sprouts. Those are really great. I also sprout mung beans for a bigger sprout. I like to sprout lentils for a little bit of a more hearty sprout. And I will sprout things like garbanzo, but only in small quantities because they can be quite gassy. You do not want to sprout kidney beans. They're toxic. That's a good one to totally not sprout. You can sprout sunflower seeds. Those can be really nice, and actually grow them up into big, you know, big greens, microgreens, right? But I'd say like the most common for sure are stuff like alfalfa or clover or broccoli, and maybe some spicier ones can be fun, like onion or garlic or mustard sprouts and stuff in small quantities and in mixes. I really like those. Raw food diet can definitely help you, Rose, with anxiety medication. The timing when you take it off, I can't say, but you know that things like bananas that are basically a B vitamin shot and bring about higher levels of serotonin and relaxation. Greens and alkaline minerals calm one down. The biggest advice I would get is, one, learn as much as it takes to learn, to feel as confident as you possibly can, and then let go. Recognize that fruits and vegetables are the most nutritious foods per calorie out of anything you can possibly eat. Eat right between as much as you want, as much as you can, so that you're getting enough calories to feel satiated and awesome. Besides that, focus on life. We can hyper focus on food if instead we focus on the things that we love, the things we're grateful for, the things that we really, really enjoy and love doing, the people we love connecting with and talking to, the activities we love doing, that's just going to bring a more holistic, healthy, balanced lifestyle that's going to make it a lot easier to get off of that and just feel less anxiety in your life, you know? So I really hope that helps. Let's see, social media negativity, you know, I kill it with kindness. You know, when people are hardcore about it, I often just say, thank you very much. Much love to you. Veganism and ethics, you know, I mean, everyone is vibrating with what they feel best vibrating with, you know, based on their experience and their information. So I let people do what they are doing and let myself do what I'm doing. And, you know, let it go from there. You know, I mean, obviously there's a need for the hardcore veganism because it's there, you know, and it reaches some people. For me, I come back into, what is this doing to me? You know, I don't want to be harboring and hanging on to hate, anger, judgment in my body. So instead, I want to come to compassion, understanding, and love, and try and make a connection that brings them closer to me and brings them into an inquisitive mind. Because again, a lot of times if you're shaking people and angry, they're not attracted. It's not attractive. So that's how I do it. I kill them with kindness, with love, with compassion. Weird question, spices. I do use spices, not when I'm cooking, when I'm preparing food, Louise, but I do love to use things like paprika, cumin, sometimes some good quality curry powders. I like good quality chili powders, or I make my own. Sometimes I dehydrate my own things and create my own spices and spice mixes. I love herbs, stuff like that, no worries. How do you deal with a night out when you accidentally eat salt or oil, and oil isn't something you consume? And what do you tell people who don't eat salt or oil? Big question, Vegan World Summit. So, you know, at certain points in my time, I didn't eat any of that whatsoever, and I avoided it like the plague. If I went to a restaurant, I'd like say, like, can you make it without? And if they did, then if they couldn't, then I'd be like, you know, it's okay. You know, nowadays, pretty much I treat it the same as I used to treat alcohol. I recognize that I'd probably get a hangover sometimes, and if I do it, just accept the consequences. It comes down to acceptance and owning what your actions are bringing, you know? So for me now, if I have some salt or have some oil, it's not that big of a deal to me. I just, the next day and the rest of my meals, I don't have them, you know? So when people ask why I don't eat salt or oil, I either say, you know, like, you know, oil is a processed food and it's so devoid of everything but pure fat. And I'd much rather eat avocado than oil. And, you know, oil is really implicated with candida, with other yeast overgrowths, and getting in way too many calories and way too much fat, which affects my pancreas. So I could get really sciencey. Salt, I could get into the fact that, you know, our body really vastly prefers organic minerals, and that organic minerals are the mineral bonded by a carbon molecule, and salt of all forms is not bonded by carbon, so it's inorganic and it's hard on the body, it's stimulating, and it leaves our tongue less sensitive to the subtle flavors and nuances of food. So it basically leads to not enjoying natural foods as much. I'd much rather get all of my sodium needs. You have zero need for salt. All of my sodium needs from whole plant foods, from greens, from celery, from tomatoes, all that stuff. So last thing, Ronto 4 is contradiction. Ronto 4, is it worth it? 1.5. Peace, love, and seasonal fruit till 4 p.m. You know, you do whatever you want. You know, I honestly, I think it just comes down to being comfortable and confident that what you're doing is best for you in this moment, and knowing that you can grow and change through that at any point in time. I think eating more plant foods, eating more ripe raw foods is going to bring about the best results if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to do it, do what you want to do until you want to change. Change is inevitable. You know, the more fresh foods you add in, the more your body's going to call out for them. The less stress, guilt, and judgment you have on yourself, the more you're going to grow through that in love and compassion, and in a greater consciousness of what your body wants. Because those stress, the negativity and judgment of yourself is going to weigh you down and not bring you the results you're looking for anyway. So be real with yourself, enjoy it, be vulnerable with others, and just grow through each experience with love, with compassion. I hope that really helps you guys. What do you say why I don't eat cooked food? I say I feel the best on raw food. You know, I've eaten cooked food for a long time. I've eaten raw food for a long time, and I just feel amazing eating raw food. Look out to nature. Every single animal in nature thrives off of the raw foods they're biologically, physiologically designed for. Why are we different? I look around and see a lot of sickness. I want to prevent that. I want to be vibing as high as I possibly can. Hope that helps you out, Brianna. Yeah, Spencer, I agree. I think that it's just a huge difference between raw till 4 and raw all the time. I feel so different physically, mentally, emotionally, and that's why I stick with it. And that's what I tell people. I want to be feeling the best I possibly can. I want to be living for the things I want to do, not just for food. Food's fun, but it's fuel. And when I eat raw food, that's what it feels like. When I eat other food, it becomes a big preoccupation. So we're rounding up to 7:01. Been an awesome hour with everyone here. Next talk's going to be on emotional eating. I'm really excited for that. It's a topic I absolutely love and think is huge for people. Breathe love. Breathe love when I'm meditating. Love. Much love, guys. Yeah, Teddy. Hey guys, oh, I like your crotch.
He's sleeping, bro. He's sleeping.
Oh, I put him to
Dude, that
sleep.
was an amazing talk. Thank you so much, Chris. Always appreciate your wisdom.
Oh, of course, man.
Always appreciate the knowledge.
Always.
And the good vibes, bro. They penetrate through all time and space through these pixels here in Hawaii.
Love it, brother. Love it. Love you too. And I'm so stoked to be a part, as always, man. Much love, guys. Cool. Definitely. Are we still live? Everyone seeing this?
We are still live, bro.
Yeah. So, awesome. Thanks again for the questions and for connecting, everyone. Sounds good. Have an awesome week. I'm excited to watch some more. I want to check out something that's going on.
Bro, keep representing raw food in cold climate, bro. More videos on that.
Yeah, I'll do some more. It's getting cold up here, so I'll make some more. I got a lot in the mix. Lots coming. So
I always expect good things from you, bro. Peace be with you.
You too, brother.
Cheers.
You too. Much love. See you guys.